everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the CEO Next Door. Our focus here is on founder stories. And today you have yours truly, Mike Mayer. We have Donovan Morrison and our esteemed guest, Matson Breakey, the co-founder of Metal Cloak. How's everyone doing?
Doing great. I don't know about that esteemed part. I listened to your guys' episode.
Yeah.
You introduce your guests as esteemed, and I don't think that works for me. There's
No.
nothing. It's just another guy with another day and another job.
Well, that's what we like to highlight on this
Yeah.
show is talking through everyday founders. I mean, I think so many times in media you hear about these crazy tech unicorns and the VC landscape. And we try and just highlight everyday founders and people who, again, could just be your next door neighbor who's incredibly successful, has had a cool career, and you would never know about it. So
That's
maybe
what
we'll take that
really
angle.
enjoyed. That's what I really enjoyed about you guys, and listening to some of your episodes. It's like, what got you guys into this? What brought you together to do this? Because I think it's a great concept.
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
It's been a few years, yeah,
since we first started it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just really enjoy talking with other entrepreneurs and founders, and have found that both on this podcast, but beforehand, probably more applicable to your question, have always been able to glean something new, interesting, and useful from talking with folks coming from a variety of different industries, variety of different upbringings, businesses. So I mean, selfishly really enjoy these conversations and always feel like I come away from them a little bit more knowledgeable and have widened my personal worldview a little bit. So that's really what I like the most about it.
I do recall looking for this type of content on the pod, all the pod networks, and couldn't find anything. So there seemed like there was a niche, although we don't make any money off this, but it's a lot of fun. And we meet great people and we get to learn lessons from different industries that can, be transferred across to different industries. So it helps.
You can definitely tell that from the questions you ask, that you're interested. You're not just looking to try to glean, because sometimes these shows are like, oh, how am I going to make money, or how I'm learning to make the next hack for somebody, right? But you can tell you really are interested in just the geekiness of business.
Yeah, we're not here to sell anything. We're not here to help our guests sell anything. We're just here. It's a learning experience, and we want to educate others that are beginning their journeys or in the middle of their journeys with lessons learned from our guests, mistakes, and I think it's working. So
yeah, obviously everything won't be applicable to everyone, but if someone listens to a few episodes and they're able to glean a nugget or two of wisdom that they can implement in their either personal or professional lives, then we're excited by it.
Well, some of these guys on there might end up being a featured book one day on Founders Podcast or some other one, right? And there's some, you're doing, like you said, you're doing kind of a neighborhood version. Of some of the great. That's awesome. That's great. Well, I'm glad to be a part of it.
Likewise.
I appreciate you guys doing what you're doing, because I feel like you're making the world a better place with every little show.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So who are you, Matson?
Yeah.
Who am I? Well, there once was a guy. So, I've always been an entrepreneur, and even when I've had to have jobs, because sometimes entrepreneurs had to have jobs. I mean, I've worked midnight shifts at factories so that I could do my own thing during the day, right? But I think I can go back and look at my first job. I was probably 8 years old, sweeping up at the school my mom worked at, and I was babysitting when I was 9. I had a paper route when I was 10, and that was just being out in front of a house, and a guy walks by and goes, or drives by and says, "Hey, this place needs a Sacramento Union, one of the oldest newspapers in the country, which is gone now. Need a paper route. You want to do it?" I was like 10-year-old kid. I'm like, sure, why not? Having no idea really what I was getting into. Back in those days, paper routes were a lot of fun, except for you were responsible for collecting all the money. So I learned very quickly to go knocking door to door, right? Asking people to pay their bills because they weren't paying their bills. I did that one night when actually John Lennon had been shot that day. I did not know. I was 10 years old, wasn't really aware of that. And I'm going around and knocking on people's doors, asking them to pay $3.59 or whatever it was for their month subscription to the Sacramento Union. As a kid, you get you learn very quickly when people are all lights are out, candles are going, sobbing is happening. You're like, what's going on with the world today? But did that paper routes. I hustled my way to be a busboy at a restaurant when I was 11. First one they ever had. I got $1 an hour plus tips and anything I could eat on the menu until the owner realized I was eating the filet mignon every night. Then I had, oh, by the way, telling dirty jokes when you're 11 years old gets you a lot of tips. 12 years old, doing the same, just 13 working at service stations. So I've always worked and tried to find a way to hustle because I needed it. I needed money. I needed to be able to, if I wanted a pair of Levi's instead of Sears Toughskins, I had to go buy them myself.
Sure.
And that just kind of folded us away. So ever since I was 8, I've found a way to keep working. Even all that time, also discovering that I'm much better doing it on my own than I am working for somebody else.
Sure.
So I hustled that into having in 2003. I just kind of jumped ahead here, but I spent a couple of years in Japan. Decided if I was going to learn a language, I wanted to go to the country. So when I was 19, I left for Japan. Came back when I was 21. Started a company that was just doing graphic design work because I had a bit of an artistic flair. Used to do that on a little Mac, the little tiny Macintosh, the original Macintosh, designing little brochures for people, and hustling my way through Kinko's and trying to use their systems. And if I figured it would cost me $20 to use Kinko's computers, but I could charge $70 for that time, that I'd made a profit. So built that up and just kept going.
So growing up, sounds like you hustled and did a number of different things. Was that mindset kind of instilled in you by your family? Did you have anyone else in your family who were entrepreneurs? Sounds like your mom may have taught or worked in a school, but where did you get that like drive from such a young age?
It's interesting. I'm not sure exactly where. I think my father definitely had an entrepreneurial spirit. He was a mechanic and spent, once one of the best mechanics in Sacramento. But he always wanted to do something on his own. We used to go, my uncle had a company. My uncle probably was the true entrepreneur of the family. He was, I remember going over and visiting his house, and he had at one point a little jewelry hanger that he had made, and he was selling those at trade shows. When I grew up, flea markets were like the place where entrepreneurs went, right? You didn't have online. You didn't have the ability to just go and pop something on Etsy or pop something on Shopify. You went to flea markets. My dad was a photographer as well. So I'd go with him and he'd sell his photos at these flea markets back in the 70s. And or he used to take wine bottles and do these little sand sculpture arts inside of the wine bottles, right? And sell those. So it was always this idea that you can make money doing other things, or just going to the flea market and setting up a bunch of junk because you're pulling out of your garage and people are paying you for it. And I'd make 15, 20 bucks just because I'm like, well, I want to sell this or I want to sell that. Of course, next week I'd be like, man, what's that thing I sold? I wish I had it now.
Yeah.
Which is probably my hoarder mentality these days. And just that, my uncle, though, he was the big entrepreneur. He started a company called Blackbird International, which sold t-shirts. You can still find that company today. He sold it for about 10 years. And it was literally just drawings that he made that he put on t-shirts. And they were incredibly, at the time, they were all hand drawn. If you look at them today, you would think they were computer created. But he did them by hand and sold them at air shows and across the country. And we used to go to air shows or go stand in front of the Air Force Base and hawk t-shirts to guys that were coming out of the BX. So it's always been a thing that you can make money doing something other than a day-to-day job. I know my father never liked being a mechanic. And so he was always trying to do something else, whether it was painting houses or photography or other things that he enjoyed. My mom, she worked 3-4 jobs. And they were divorced early. They got divorced when I was 3 years old. So my dad lived in Sacramento and then up to Redding and then to Wairika. My mom went to LA. So I spent half my time growing up in little towns like Wairika and the other half getting all my street smarts on the streets of LA. 8, 9 years old, walking Hollywood Boulevard in order to go from the apartment we lived in to the restaurant she worked at. And that was just like, I just learned very quickly how to deal with people, how to be street smart. And to this day, I still carry my wallet in my front pocket instead of the back pocket. And I'm walking and brushing just to make sure that it's still there. And so probably was, just to answer your question, that the idea that you can always make money has been there. The idea that there isn't a general one way to make a career has been there. And it was never really instilled in me that college and career was the way you go. It was just that you got to go out there and make your mark in life and do it.
What was your first business that was, I get the paper route and, the other types of small sweeping, but what was the first real business? Was it the graphic design firm and where you started making some money and realized I have something here? This is a career and a future.
Yeah, I think it was. It was the first time I realized people were willing to pay me a good amount of money for my skills. And so I started doing graphic design, and I would charge, $25 an hour, and then $50 an hour, and then $75 an hour, and then $125 an hour. I realized that I had a unique skill set. It wasn't just graphic design. My mastery of the English language, my ability to do copywriting, all of that meant that I could actually create a brochure or create marketing materials for my clients from start to finish. They didn't have to provide me with all their content. They didn't need to provide me with everything they needed. They said, I need a brochure to sell my company. Do the work. Or I could create logos. And the challenge was we were never the high-end company or the low-end company. We were in the middle of the road. And at a certain point, the industry started changing in that it was, you either had to be the high-end company or the low-end company. And if you weren't, you would you got to start squeezed out of the middle, started getting squeezed out. So the guys like me who didn't want to charge $10,000 for a logo because I thought that was just too much. I'll charge $500 for a logo, $1,000 for a brochure, and build you up and use it as a client for the next 5 years as your company grows. That was my target market. All of a sudden, we started having guys that could do logos online for $99, right? And that's great. That is great for the graphic industry. It's great for the clients, but it wasn't great for my money.
So did you work with any specific industries, or all over the map? Like, is that kind of what directed you to getting interested in what became Metal Cloak, or not really?
It really was. I was just hustling to have. It was really a lifestyle business.
Okay.
The concept of growth and growing for beyond your own work wasn't one that I had embraced. I was also in the Navy at the time. I was doing the Navy reserves, and I was a intelligence specialist in the Navy. And as such, I always just had this game plan, right? I'm going to do my Navy work. I'm making money. I'm paying my bills. Not having a lot of money growing up, I also never had the mentality that money was about saving and building, right? Those people that look at it and go, well, I know I'm doing this job and I'm thinking about 20 years from now, so I'm going to start saving all my pennies and all my dimes and putting them aside so that I can invest them or reinvest them, or the Warren Buffetts of the world that just reinvest in the capital. That wasn't me. I was spending my capital, right? I was making good money and I had fun with it. I like to say that my late 20s were everybody else's late teen years, because I was spending so much time working and or trying to be an adult when I was a teenager or in my early 20s, that I never really had the party life. So my late 20s, early 30s were about that. Was, I got money, I'm going to spend it. I got money. Hey, all the drinks are on me. And so that it really was just finding clients. I'd meet with clients, I'd find one, bring more in, and just try never have that challenge of having the one client. There were times where I had one client that was just the bread and butter. He was bringing in so much money, I could focus on him until they went, we're making a marketing change. And all of a sudden, you go, whoops, I can't pay my bills this week because I expected that $20,000 bill to come. So it really was never a scaled business. I read a book, 8-9 years ago, on how to sell your business, and I forget the name of it, but it was a popular book at the time. And the guy in the book actually wrote about a graphic design company that he had and how he was trying to build it. And I realized, oh my God, you can scale things for the idea of building something for the future. And that was not a native idea.
What was your next move after the graphic design company?
So, well, the graphic design company, so everything kind of fell into, uh, there was politics involved. And I was also a political consultant. I don't talk about this part of my life because as a political consultant, your job basically was to destroy your opponents. And and it's kind of funny because sometimes people get into office politics or club politics. I have no idea. Like it's to live a life where you're basically doing the research and the work to destroy another opponent. It's good money, but there's no joy in that. But the same company, Matson Breakey Associates, that evolved into Matsonian Group. But doing not only the graphic design, because my hands were into everything, I started doing executive level events for government agencies. I was also into doing events. We had a beer festival called the West Coast Brew Fest, which was the biggest brew fest in the area at that time. The Northern California Blues Festival. Started really just expanding into a bunch of other different things that we could do, and build up just a portfolio of fun. The graphic design was under the label of Creative Cats, and the event was under, we had so many different things to play with. And I had a few employees that would work with me and help me with these events. And it was all about that. It was, again, having fun and building things up. Along that way, in that journey of doing the beer festivals, I ran across a guy named Doug Powell. And Doug was brought to me because at the time he had a business called the National Golf League. And the National Golf League was an attempt by him and some of his co-founders to build a golf league that was different than the PGA in that it was team-based golf. Everybody wore matching jerseys. It was also interactive with the community. So literally you could be on the green about to putt. The fans were encouraged to run onto and surround the green and cheer on their players. It wasn't this. Mm-hmm. It was like go 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 yeah. They were that. It was that way at all throughout the game. So we had a 9-hole tournament that we did here in Sacramento at a place called Land Park. And as part of that, the reason he came to me is he was told the guy to talk to in Sacramento about beer is Matson. Now, the PGA has an event in Phoenix, the Phoenix Open, which is a massive, massive 300,000, 400,000 people, giant beer tents, big beer sponsors, right?
16th hole is famous.
Yes, and he wanted to do a version of that with his little event. So I did a beer festival. So we combined a beer festival with live music and all this other fun stuff along with the golf. And that's how we met. And in doing that, we did that for 2 or 3 years. And then one day he calls me up and he says, hey, I have another project you might be interested. That was January 5th, 2009. I came over and met with him and another gentleman named Aaron Kalachia. And they were forming a company called Armored Works LLC. And in that, they were simply trying to create a company for Aaron, which was a long time friend of Doug's, so that Aaron could build something for himself. Doug was deep pockets wealthy because if anybody knows the backflow industry, which are those big, they're the valves that sit outside of many office buildings, especially on the west. There's a big U-shaped pipe out there, and so it's basically is a preventer to make sure there's always pressure within your fire prevention system. Every innovation in a backflow has come from my partner Doug over the last 30 to 40 years. So he had pretty deep pockets, having sold at one of his companies. He spent 2 years developing the product, launched it 3 months later, sold it for umpteenth of millions of dollars. And so he was playing with the money, which is why he was doing the golf tournament. But it was an opportunity for him to help his friend Aaron build a new company. And so they asked me to come on board as the marketing side because they're both engineers. And that was just kind of how we fell into building this company about Jeeps.
So it sounds like the golf league, that was almost sounds like an initial version of LIV or what they're trying to do.
Right. And I think if Doug had a deeper pockets that he wanted to put into it, it could have gone that direction. But it was really local. And one of the things he did in that, one of the reasons he started this, he is a scratch player. I mean, he could have gone pro. So after he sold this company, he was like, what am I going to do with my life now? And one of the thoughts was maybe I should go pro. playing golf all his life. He was that good. But he told me specifically he loved his family more than he loved golf. And if you're a PGA player, a pro, you're traveling, if you're going to be successful, you're not with your family. So this National Golf League was designed for those level of players that wanted to participate, loved to compete, but wanted to stay close to home. And they had teams across the country. They were owned teams, so you would buy you buy into the Sacramento Eagles was his team, and every region had a league of I think like 6 teams in their league, and there was about 4 leagues that had been sold and built up, and it could have been a big thing. But the moment that Doug turned his attention on a new company, and that company being Metal Club, he had to take his attention off of the National Golf League. He's the type of person which is not me, that can completely focus on one thing and do it incredibly well. And does just that thing when he's doing it as he does it. And so it was shut down after Golf League, walk away from it, and then it fell apart because he wasn't there, and then he built up this company.
Gotcha. So at this point in your career, are you solely focused on Metal Cloak, or are you still doing any of the graphic design work, any of the event stuff? Or are you pretty much all in on Metal Cloak?
So I started just being a consultant. It was like, come in, help us do this. We need help on the website. We need help on the marketing. We help. And really what they had done is they had bought a company called Rev 111 out of Southern California, out of Temecula. That company had been closed for a year. They had a couple of interesting products, but they needed help, and they had an investor, ran out of money, like a typical story, and they couldn't go any further. So they've been closed for about a year. And my guys came in and bought that and bought the initial 3 product designs, right? And so they had that, started redesigning it, started making it easier to manufacture, better for us as a company to work with. There was already a strong fan base. So we had a big advantage in this fan base that existed for this small company. I came in to make sure the website was good, do all the graphic work, do some marketing, help out there, with the idea that I was still going to do my beer festivals and my music festivals and all the other stuff that was happening. As it started going along, we realized being a part-time consultant that came in occasionally was not going to work. So it became a full-time gig, needing to be there, learn about it, help develop all the basics. It was just the 3 of us in a 2,000 square foot space, a part-time welder that came in. So we did all the shipping, we did all the initial stuff. I did all the development. We worked on how was our customer service going to be, and all the little things that I started then that we still embrace today. And it was stuff we could talk about here and there. But in doing that, we built that initial little company. By the summer there, all of a sudden I had to say bye-bye because I had a trip plan with my dad. I did 125 miles on the crest trail. He'd been talking about that for years, and I finally told him in 2007 that in 2008 we were going to go do it and better get ready. It didn't happen, so in 2009 we're going to do this. The goal was 300 miles. We did 125 of it before he had to cop out, but it was still it was a great experience. I finally got him on the trail. I came back and we made the decision because I had other offers on the table at that time. Made the decision to put 100% of my time into Armored Works, join the company, and become one of the partners, and then just start building from there.
Got it. So when did Armored Works become Metal Cloak?
So Armored Works was the company that bought Rev 111, and in the first few weeks of going with Rev 111, we realized we needed to change the name. Metal Cloak, interestingly enough, was the name of their product line. They had the Rev 111 metal. Okay. Now, if you think about a Jeep, bumpers, fenders, rockers, all these things made of steel that were designed to surround a Jeep. That's where the name Metal Cloak came from. So it was the metal cloak or jacket or steel jacket around your vehicle, around your Jeep. Which, from the rock crawler standpoint, the guys who go out there and beat up their Jeeps off-road, it's valuable because it protects the little sheet metal from the manufacturer versus all this heavy steel products we were putting out there. That was our basic product line. And so the Metal Cloak name evolved from that. Armored Works is still the corporate name. Metal Cloak is still the primary product line. And we have several other brands. We have Rock Sport, which is our shock brand. We have Patriot Built, which is a American-made brackets and that sort of thing. We even have Maximus, which is a gaming station that we built. That came out of 2020 when we were trying to figure out, and all COVID and people want to be together, but it allows you to put 4 gaming computers, 4 Xboxes, 4 TV screens surrounding in a cube, and you can sit there and play with each other. So it's almost like the old LAN parties my generation did, where you actually showed up at your friend's house with your computer, your keyboard, and your monitor, and came carrying that into your friend's house. You and your other friends could have a LAN party and play gaming that way. This is just allowing you to do it with your Xboxes right there in your game room. So Maximus, and so we have done different brands that we've developed since then that are all started from Melbourne.
And are you still manufacturing everything in Temecula?
No. So we immediately moved everything up to a little 2,000 square foot place in Rancho Cordova, California. By the end of that first year, we had to move to 3,500 square feet. By the end of that year, we added another 3,500 square feet. By the end of that next year, we added another 3,000 square feet. And then we started looking, and then we moved into, there was a company called Rubicon Express, which was at one point the leader in our industry. And they had some financial troubles because of mismanagement, and ended up getting bought by another big company in Southern California. They don't even exist today. I mean, pretty much their brand is dying away or been eliminated. That company in Southern California had a building that was literally down the street from us. It was 40,000 square feet. So we moved into that, thinking, well, this is a lot of space. This is great for us. By the end of 4 years, we were bulging out of the seams and needed to move out. So we bought a building that we're currently in back in 2016 at 70,000 square feet. We are actually still getting to the point where we have containers outside and manage inventory and other stuff, because it's just not enough shelf space for everything we need. But it's been a fun.
Are you direct to consumer, or do you go to market through retailers, distributors?
That was one of our early decisions that we had to make as a board and as a group, and decide what direction we go. We are primarily direct consumer. It's been a big change for us. In 2009, when we started that, many in our industry were not that way. And it was the big deal. In fact, if you had a product and you created a product that, cool, look at my cool cup. The biggest blessing you could have is if all of a sudden Transamerican, which was the big distributor in our industry, called you up one day and said, hey, we'd like to sell your cup. And you're like, yeah, I made it. But not really, because then they start hammering you on invoicing. They get to be net 60 and net 90, and then they go further and further. We decided early on that we wanted to be direct to consumer. We do not, and we never have sold through any other wholesalers. We do sell through authorized installers across the country, which means we have about 1,100 of those. But you have to have a shop, you have to have a lift, you have to directly work with your customer, because we wanted to control the customer experience. And we've done a lot to do that. We want to make sure the customer, the product isn't just the great products we build and design. It's also the experience of the install. It's the experience of the customer service. It is letting them know we have lifetime customer service. We only created a warranty because the community kept saying, well, what's your warranty? Like, well, we don't have one. Well, I can't buy your product. You don't have a warranty. Yeah, but warranties are written by lawyers to protect companies from customers, right? Customer service is what we do. We do customer service. We're focused on customers. So we have lifetime customer service. You can call us up 5 years from now with a problem with your product, and we'll find a way to make you happy.
That's really nice.
Right? And we've just done that from the beginning. So we're direct to consumer. We have our authorized installers who have that same level of customer care. And if they don't, if we get problems with your reports, we have to have a conversation with them saying, what's going on? You're representing our product, and we want you to make sure you represent our product the same way we would. Or the customers call us directly and we just take care of it.
How do the end users, the vehicle owners find out about your product? Is it through the shops, or are you on social? Are you in catalogs? You're blogging, like what's
it has definitely evolved over the years. I will say still to this day, though, our number one marketing is word of mouth. I spend very little dollars on marketing compared to what a company our size would normally spend. Mm-hmm. And that's because first off, I'm always frugal. Like I just refuse sometimes to spend money, but we focused on organic growth. It's interesting in the world of startups how it's all about capturing that, getting that investment in, capturing your marketplace, right? We've never really done that. What we've done is create great products and then organically grown over the last 14 years to be that great company that people want to be a part of. Our products are very distinct. We have patented technologies that we included and that are part of those products. They are different than what most people would see in the industry. And we've had that signature where we've been willing to take innovation to a level where others would go almost initially. And for every single product that we've been innovative with, well, why are they doing that? Well, that doesn't work. That's not going to work. That's dumb. Only to then be within a couple of years copied. Because that turns out that what we did was the right thing and it built us a greater customer base because it performed as great as we promised it would.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, just to further clarify the products themselves. So from my understanding, you said it's like a shell that goes around the cars at four people.
That was the original product.
Okay.
So every vehicle has fenders. Every vehicle has bumpers. Every vehicle even has rockers. They all have it. But what is a rocker? A rocker is that section between your front and rear tire right under your door, right? That's considered the rocker section. And trucks sometimes will have like a platform there that you can stand on, right?
Sure.
Or maybe a little step you can come on. Front and rear bumpers. They all have bumpers and they all have fenders. So on a Jeep, and specifically our early Jeeps that we started with, the fenders could easily be crushed by the rocks or the trees that you take your Jeeps out to play with. So what we made was heavy duty steel bumpers, heavy duty steel fenders, and heavy duty steel rockers, all designed to protect sections of your vehicle. That's what we started with. So we started literally with 3 SKUs. And then from those 3 SKUs, we now have 1,400. But now we make everything from our primary product line are suspensions. We had suspension technology that we created, which gave greater flex, greater off-road capability, utilizing unique technologies that we introduced in the industry. We built shock absorbers. We're about to release a new shock absorber that's a very, very high-end shock absorber. So a lot of the technology related to what it takes. Somebody could go buy a Jeep right now, like you've seen the Jeep truck, the Jeep Gladiator, or the Jeep Wrangler, which is, these are the open top Jeeps. Any of those Jeeps right now, you can go buy one of those Jeeps, come to us, and pretty much get it completely outfitted. We have a brand called Adventure Rack System, which is a rack system that goes on the back of your Jeep. So you can put a tent on top of your Jeep, or you can put a canoe on top of your Jeep, or put stuff in the back of your truck. So it's all that. We're primarily Jeep focused. So we do make stuff for the new Bronco, stuff for the Ram trucks, stuff for the Toyotas. But we've built our company all on the Jeep lifestyle, which is from an interesting standpoint. You asked a question earlier about graphic design, if I focus on an industry. And no, I just focus on finding clients and trying to see who would pay me money to do stuff. But with Metal Cloak, we definitely focused on an industry. And I think we kind of stumbled into it. The products were Jeep products. But I know my partners and I were thinking about how we could grow into trucks and all this other industry. But Jeep has kept us busy. We were fortunate that in 2009, the new 4-door Jeep had been introduced in 2008 and was a big deal because there had never been a 4-door Jeep before. And Jeep back then did a terrific job at marketing because they focused on the housewife. This great marketing campaign. They were going out and convincing the housewives that they could have this relatively inexpensive convertible that the full family could fit in and you can go anywhere. It was a great marketing campaign. I love our friends at Jeep, but sometimes I wonder what the heck they're doing these days because their marketing these days is just, I think sometimes they just want to meet a celebrity over there and not necessarily do a campaign that really sells the market. But the Jeep JK Wrangler, as it was known, which was a product line until 2018, we rode that wave. It went from, they used to make $75,000 a year to $250,000. And we were able to ride that wave with the popularity of people that had sports cars suddenly getting into Jeeps, going into off-roading, learning that they could go do stuff and throw their family in the back of the Jeep and have a fairly safe vehicle for riding the Rubicon Trail or going to Moab and playing out there, or going to all these other destinations across the country where they can take their family, or they can just go camping. and it really was an explosion. But that has been our niche market. Finding a niche like that where we were able to just ride that wave was I can't say it was lucky, but it was pretty impressive.
These Jeep enthusiasts, they must be spending an arm and a leg once they buy the Jeep to outfit it. Can you give us an idea from like entry level? You bought the Jeep and you outfitted it to the premier version. What are these people spending?
So you can buy an off the shelf Jeep. In fact, there's one. There's been different versions of the Jeeps built over the years, right? Specialty Jeeps. There's a company called AEV that makes a fully built Jeep that you can just buy at a dealership. Generally speaking, you're spending anywhere from $55,000 to $65,000 for the base vehicle right now, and that is a lot more than, say, when the JK was popular. It was like 35. So 10 years ago, it was 35,000. You could start with a relatively inexpensive vehicle, $35,000. Put 10,000 into it, and you have a highly capable rig. Now with inflation and all the changes, plus the technology being put into the Jeeps, the new Jeep Wrangler, the JL Wrangler, which came out in 2018, has a lot of technology into it, and you're looking at $55,000, $65,000, upwards of $95,000 if you want one with a V8 in it, and that's just the starting realm, right? Now you need to do stuff to it. So if you came to us, you could easily spend $15,000 just on the products to be able to install. Now, if you're good at home, you could simply do that at your home, and all of our stuff is built so that the guy at home can do it in his own garage.
You don't need a lift. You don't need a lift.
You don't need a lift. You need a couple of jacks. Now, I say the guy, but some of my favorite stories are the girls, the Jeep girls, who buy our product and go and install it, and then come back to their guy friends and say, "Look what I did!" Ha ha ha! Right? So really designed for anybody to install. There are some things that we sell that requires welding or some skills that maybe you need to go to an authorized installer with. But that's also why we have an authorized installer community, because you could be spending another $4,000 or $5,000 in labor to have somebody professionally do all those products and really stand behind the install. So, but it really is an enthusiasm. You know, we joke that Jeep, JEP, stands for just empty every pocket. But if you think about the capability of what you create, it's pretty incredible, because what those Jeeps can do when they're built and where they can go is unlike any other vehicle made. Even the Ford Bronco, which is supposed to be the competitor for the Jeep Wrangler, has great limitations just on how it was designed and what they chose to do, where its strengths are, where its weaknesses are.
Man, I just saw a video. I love these videos on TikTok where they show cars not manned running into a brick wall at like 30 miles an hour. What happens to the cab? The Bronco performed the worst.
Yeah.
It completely collapsed. Like, you are at 30 miles an hour, you're dead.
You're nothing. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and that's
you need Jeeps, your products, maybe.
The Jeeps, you know, when you build a Jeep, you're building them with roll cages. You're building them with the idea that you want to be able to do something and have total confidence in it. And there are times you're out wheeling with your Jeep in these different environments, whether it's a Rubicon Trail, where it is the greatest adrenaline rush at 3 miles an hour, because you might be off camber. There's a ledge right there. You go wrong, you're tumbling down. You're going up a rock pile or whatever it happens to be. It's a great fun. And there's a growing community of overlanding, which you guys have probably seen, right? The guys out there camping, and especially when 2020 hit. Oh my God, it was a boom for our business. We can talk about that in a second, about big changes we've seen over the years. But the Rocklander now is kind of the new thing that we've embraced and really brought in, is this idea that you are capable to go camping one day just out in Death Valley, but the next you might be riding the Rubicon Trail, or then you can go out and just go down to the local lake and do some fishing. But maybe you have to go through a big rock pile that nobody else can get through to get there, right? It's the idea of your rig is capable of doing all this amazing stuff, but sometimes you just want to take it down to the river, do a little fishing.
Have you ever considered partnering directly with Jeep, or have you ever had those conversations with them? Or
yeah, Jeep is interesting because of all the different changes, right? There was a time where Jeep was Jeep, right? And then it became part of FCA 2008, 2009, right? Chrysler was part of the group that the Obama administration basically came in and said, okay, we're stripping you of everything because it was owned by a private equity firm, and we're selling it off in bankruptcy to Fiat. So it became Fiat Chrysler, FCA. Now it's under a group called Stellantis, which Fiat Chrysler merged and purchased, and now there's this much larger global, one of the largest groups, automotive groups in the world, Stellantis. So it's not really the same group that it used to be. And there's been a lot of changes in leadership, and some of the guys over there, we love the guys over there, but in the world of Jeep, we're nothing to them. We're a little blip, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. And in fact, when they came out with the latest Jeep, the Jeep Wrangler in 2000, the JL Wrangler in 2018, all of us were trying to find out, like, man, tell us what's going on, because it was so secret. And as a manufacturer, like, can I get the files? I need some tea. I want to see. We want to get ahead of of competition, and we couldn't. I mean, we just got, we had our first Jeep was the one that we went and bought down at the dealership, ordered the Jeep, and when it was delivered, that's when we started doing R&D. And partly that was just because the head of Mopar, which is the group that makes most accessories for the Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep brands, wanted to be the leader in off-road accessories. And the head of Mopar at the time was upset that there were dozens of us manufacturers out there that were making more parts and were more popular than Mopar was for their own Jeep. So he didn't want anybody to have access to it because he wanted to have it. Unfortunately, our response was, well, you should make better parts, because I have plenty of customers that buy the Mopar kit and then come to us because they want something better. And it's, again, we love them. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Jeep, but we were thankful that they haven't done everything perfectly, because we wouldn't have a business if they didn't.
Matson, I just looked at the clock, and out of respect for your time, I'm going to ask you one last question, and then we can wrap this up.
Sure.
We really, one of the focuses of our podcast is learning about the lessons and the mistakes that you've gone through from one entrepreneurial journey to the next. If you can think back to, what you've learned along the way that you think would be good to impart on our listeners, we would love to hear that.
So I think the biggest thing is, and I learned this from doing events. I learned this from just having customers and direct clients. Mistakes happen. We all make mistakes, and sometimes they are small and minor, and sometimes they are huge. But when you do events, when you're doing, and the great thing about being an event coordinator is basically organized chaos. So I learned early on that you can solve events. Especially, you can have all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the background that nobody knows about. Because what is the customer experience? If they never know that everything's falling apart behind the scenes, you've done a great job, right? Same thing is true about our customers in the manufacturing business, which was new for me. I came into manufacturing where I was in a world where if I went on vacation, I didn't make money. But here we can build a company where I can be gone for a few weeks and it's still growing because we have a great team of people trying to grow the business. But ultimately, everybody here depends on a customer having a great experience. And we make mistakes, things happen, we ship the wrong product, we don't complete a weld, something breaks. One of my sales guys has a bad day and says something that is misinterpreted by a customer. Yeah, any number of things. Customer's expectation isn't met, whatever it is. All that's important, but really what's important is how you handle it. One thing we do, and we've done from the beginning with all of our customers, and this is very rare in the world of e-commerce, 80% of our business comes over the internet, right? Many times we talk to those customers, but they can go place the order online. Because of that, that means that's 80% of those customers that we could just take the order and run it. We don't. Early on, in the very beginning, just because I had to do this, I called every customer and said, thank you for your order.
I love that.
But I needed to compare. I needed to make sure that we knew what they wanted. It is still to this day, I have one employee who's dedicated all day. That's what he does. He calls every customer, places an order online, calls, emails, texts, whatever, and says, hey, I just wanted to thank you for the order. I wanted to confirm this is exactly what you want. Or in some cases, it's also kept our fraud level low because we can detect fraud much easier. It's also helped us go with customers go, okay, good. Oh yeah, I didn't mean to order that. I meant to order this. So we save money there. but ultimately it's the touch to the customer that says, we care really about you. And the experience doesn't end there. Experience ends when you get the product, you install the product, you call us for something else, we take care of it. If you have a problem, we take care of it. So the whole idea is that from the beginning to end, there's a journey a customer goes through. And with that journey, they learn that we are professionals that are here to help them, and we're here to be a part of that journey with them.
I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I have one little thing. I love this. I read this to my employees a couple of days ago, and I don't have the name on this who said this, but I thought it was awesome. It says, "Don't ever do anything as though you were an amateur. Anything, do it as a professional standards. Anything you do, not like just, oh, my work or my job or, anything. Walk the dog, take a bath, go to sleep. Yes, do it as a professional." And here, I'll jump ahead. It says, "Never let it be said you live an amateur life. Professionals see situations and they handle what they see. They are not amateur gamblers. Let's live the life as professional." That's what I try to instill here. We are professionals. We're here to do things, and we're here to help people. And ultimately, I think what came out of COVID for us was medical. We're here. We really sell happiness. Our tagline is, "It's your Jeep, only better." But internally, our tagline is, "It's your life, only better." Because we're always trying to make people better, whether it's the people that work for us, ourselves, or all of our customers across the world.
Cool.
That's very
Awesome motto for the company and just personally.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for those words, and thanks for spending some time with us today. It was a lot of fun. Great getting to know you. And
Yeah, well, I really appreciate it. Again, I love what you guys do.
thank you.
This is great, and I started listening through them and some of the stories that are out there, and again, the wide variety of entrepreneurs that you're talking to.
Very. Yeah.
Whether it's tech startups or construction or guy down the street who's just trying to get things done. I mean, it really is awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, best of luck to you, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. I'm always available.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matson.
Everybody got a dream, let me show you all love. From an idea, working it into a startup. This the show that you need, what more could you ask for? Never know who become the CEO next door. Tune in, every episode insightful. The type of vibe you will want to subscribe to. Let's go. Hey.